Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Motherwell manager Mark McGee admits it's going to be really difficult to hold on to Marvin Johnson. Hearts have signed Christian Novak on a 2-year deal at Tynecastle. And Chris Commons has been left out of the Celtic Champions League squad. Just a few of the topics we'll be discussing tonight. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and I'm delighted to say our boot-room guest is Edinburgh City striker Craig Beattie, still trying to get the all-time record, Ruffy, of Chick Charnley with 23 clubs. Craig is firing them in at 32 years of age. There's still time, Ruffy.
Yep, I think there are still enough clubs out there that he could go to, but I'm pleased that he still is playing. I think you'll know yourself, when you're a professional football player, you want to play as long as possible, and it's good to see that he's still got the enthusiasm to do it.
Yep, and a wee bit of history for you. First goal for Edinburgh City in the domestic league.
Yeah, delighted with that. So it's the first time they've been in senior football, and to score the first goal was really pleasing. A little bit disappointed not to have got something from the game. Would have made it a little bit sweeter, but the name's in the history book, so it's a wee bit of self-satisfaction.
Were you tempted to take the shirt off when you scored, or did you sort of restrain yourself?
No, I think.
You ever going to let that go, Ruffy?
No, it was so brilliant when it happened. It was great.
I think it's got to stay there, though. I think it's got to remain unique.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't want to rip that Edinburgh City top. They're in short supply. But over and above that, tell us about Gary Jardine. We don't know too much about him.
Yeah, didn't know a great deal myself, to be honest. Got a wee phone call a couple of weeks ago to, he introduced himself and asked me if I would go and sit down and speak to him. I didn't think at first that, from what he says, he didn't think I would be interested in going. But of course, I just love the game, and I wanted to go and sit down and see what he said. And I was really excited with the plans that he had. He explained where the club had came from and what they were looking to do, and I was really excited, and it took no time at all to sort of agree a deal and get signed.
Yeah, of course, Meadowbank is a ground you know well. Ruffy's still going strong after all these years.
Yeah, it certainly is, and obviously it's another Edinburgh club there. You would like to think that the support would give them a turn. Obviously, if the games don't match up, but yeah, it's a stadium. I have to be perfectly honest, that it was not my kind of stadium. It was wide open. If the wind was blowing, it was all over the place. But the playing surface was always reasonably good.
Yeah. What about the style of football you're playing?
Again, we're going to have to adapt. I've joined a team that's lost 6 league games in the previous 3 years. So we've lost our first one on Saturday there. So the lads are going to have to adapt to playing senior football. But they've earned the right to go into that league and to try and find their feet and see where they're going to be at. Ideally, everybody wants to get the ball down and pass it, but it's not always going to happen. And as Ruffy said, that at Meadowbank it might not always be the case, although I think he's making excuses for not being able to catch the ball in the wind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when it's up in the air, that means he's got to come out of his goal, so there's no danger. I'm glad you can read between the lines on it. Let's talk about one of your old clubs, Hearts, signed Christian Novak on a 2-year deal. Obviously, they're spending money, trying to recruit players and trying to, in some ways, emulate, if not better, what they did last year. Yeah, absolutely. They've come back stronger from the sort of darker days of 2013-14, where they were virtually going out of business. So having had such a good time there, I'm really pleased for the club. Also, I know Robbie well as well, so happy that he's had the opportunity to go and try and build something, and I hope they go on and really achieve something. Yeah, you mentioned Robbie there. He's mentioned today, Ruff, he's just a wee bit disappointed in Scott Brown talking about Jamie Walker and using the word cheat. I don't think there's a fallout between them, but he's not happy. He thinks if he should have kept his own counsel on this one.
Yeah, but again, it's the old after the game, get in front of the media and you're asked a question, and I would think it would be tongue in cheek when he said it, but obviously as soon as you mention that word cheat, the media pick up on it and obviously use it. I don't know what, I'm struggling myself to know what kind of word you use for that. I really am. I don't like the word cheat, but when you really look at it,
deceiver?
It is. It's just, I know where Robbie Nielsen's coming from, because once it's picked up that somebody calls him a cheat, it can stick. You know, and it means the next time he goes in the box and he gets a legitimate challenge, he's now got to say to himself, well, do I get down here or do I stay up? You know, so he's now been labelled, so he really has to watch what he's doing.
Well, here's a tough one for you, and I apologise unreservedly for this question, but which camp do you fall into? Because as a striker, you want to try and gain an advantage for your team. Are you of the opinion that it's the referee to make the decision on whether you've managed to fool him, or do you try and stay in your feet at all costs?
Right, difficult one, and you've put me on the spot. There was no contact.
Yeah.
I said it first time. I was sat watching it. I said it first time. There was no contact. So, you know, he's sort of gone up in the air. He's spun around 360, landed on the ground. Cheat's a strong word. It's a big accusation. But if there's no contact, what's forced him to do that? He's conned the referee, deceived the referee. Where do we go with it? It wasn't a penalty. I think John Beaton's guessed at it a little bit because his view wasn't particularly good.
Well, he's man enough to apologise, but again, I think Robbie's just trying to take the sting out of this whole thing, you know, because the language is strong. It's the first game of the season, you know, and suddenly we have a referee who's apologised, but suddenly there's the focus on Jamie Walker.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've had 3 days to go over it and think about it, and we still don't have an adjective for cheating. So what chance has Scott Brown got 5 minutes after the game?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point actually. And from players' perspective on this one, I mean, I remember Andy Walker saying to me, "Why should a striker try and alter his balance when somebody makes a stupid challenge? Let the referee make the decision."
Yeah, absolutely. If a defender's going to come in and leave the leg in and be clumsy in the box, I think that's just the game. But there's a difference between being clever and cheating. And if there's no contact and you're throwing yourself in the ground, then you know you're walking a fine line of getting labelled. And you know, like Ruffy said, if referees are, and it'll be subconsciously, if they're watching a player get into the box and falling on the ground, there's no question they're going to second guess themselves.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure that argument will rage on and on. Let's turn our attention to another little story that caught my eye today. Chris Commons has been left out of the Celtic squad for the Champions League qualifier against Hapoel Beersheva. Do you think the writing's on the wall?
From a player's point of view, you would have to take a step back and look at the situation. And at his age, you know, you would want to be playing all the time. Obviously, that is a sign that he's not in the plans. So I think it's up to Chris to make up his mind what he's going to do. I don't think there'll be any shortage of clubs would want him. You know, he's still a quality player. But sometime in your career, you've got to say to yourself, well, it's not happening for me here, and I move on. I mean, he's not the first player that's had to move on from a club, so I would like to think that he would make the decision very, very soon, because career gets shorter and shorter. So I think as soon as he's made up his mind that he's out of the plans, you'll see a right host of clubs wanting his services. Yeah,
I mean, there has been a wee suggestion that Hibs were looking at him to go there. It's a possibility, although he's kind of shot that down in the last couple of weeks. But the closer it gets to the window, if you're not in the plan, suddenly you start looking elsewhere. Yeah, absolutely. He's a player that Neil Lennon knows very, very well. You know, there'll come a point where he'll just want to get back playing regular and enjoying his football again. But I think in this situation, although Chris will be really disappointed, I think a lot of credit has to go to Brendan, because it would have been easy for him to include him and keep him going, and you know, give him that false sense where, you know, there might be a future here for me. So I think to make a decision and to be a successful manager, I think you've got to be ruthless at times as well. And you know, I think that's probably the first time that Brendan will have had to do that since he's gone into Celtic. So I think there's a lot of credit due there. Yeah, although I would try and counter that, Ruffy, by saying, you know, there could be other circumstances that we are not privy to as to why he's out of the squad now. He may well have set him a target to say, okay, you've got to get to, and I'm only using, it could be his weight, could be overall how he wants him to play in the team, and he has to apply himself on the training ground. Could be that, but more often than not, sometimes we read between the lines and think his days are numbered. Well, that would be the incentive for me as a player, because Ronnie Delia has obviously decided that for whatever reason he wasn't a regular in the team, and he came out early bells and said that was some of the instances that he wasn't fit enough, he didn't fit into the style of play. So if I was Chris Commons, I would want to be proving him wrong. I'd want to be proving Brendan Rodgers wrong for leaving me out.
So I think you have to make a decision before the deadline, because there's no way, if you're not included, where you would want to sit on your backside for the rest of the season. He's got far too much to offer.
The other problem with that, Ruffy, is in the final year of that 2-year deal that he'd signed. So they would be looking for some sort of money, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, in this day and age, they generally come to some agreement. I mean, I'm sure the club themselves wouldn't want a player just sitting there picking up money. You know, you would like to think there'd be something that they could do that could work for both of them. Okay,
we will talk about Brendan Rodgers after the break. We're going to talk Mark Warburton as well. We'll look at the League Cup games taking place tomorrow night in Scotland. We'll also talk about Paul Pogba, finally a Manchester United player, just in case you hadn't heard. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me. Peter Martin, our bootroom guest, is Edinburgh City striker Craig Beattie. Well, the window is still open and managers start to panic when some of their prized possessions are sought after. One in particular we're going to talk about now, Ruffy, Marvin Johnson. Mark McGee has stated that he won't stand in his way. It's going to be ever so difficult to try and hold on to him.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed in the game up here. You know, players were getting 2 and 3 year contracts, but now they're getting 1 year if they're fortunate enough to get that, and they're taking the 1 year. And when somebody down in England offers you more security, they generally go for it, more money as well. And it's good that Mark McGee and Paul Hartley as well are sensible enough to be in the game, that they know there's a budget they can work under and they're not stopping anybody from going.
Yeah, having had a chat with him over the last few days, he's well aware that Motherwell can't match the money. It'd be great if he stays after the window, because suddenly you've got that quality player. He displayed that at the weekend with his top drawer goal. But he's also sensible enough, as Ruffy mentioned there, if a Brighton comes in and offers a good amount of money, Motherwell will get the benefit of the transfer fee. Marvin Johnson gets the benefit that he gets, you know, an increased wage and gets a transfer.
Yeah, it's great for the lad that he's been doing well. I've also got a lot of respect for Mark McGee for, you know, potentially allowing him to leave. Stephen Fletcher's one that pops into my head, where he went down to Wolves, had a couple of really good seasons, and all of a sudden he goes for £15 million to Sunderland in the top half of the English Premier League. So should that happen, you know, with this kid, then you'll be talking about 20-25% selling fee again, which, you know, the transfer fee alone would service Motherwell probably for a couple of seasons. So, you know, as much as they want to keep a quality player, they'll be looking at the purse strings and thinking, you know, maybe he should just go. Yeah,
well, just picking up on that point, you know, whatever they get, suddenly that's an amount of money that, as Craig rightly mentions there, can take them, you know, maybe to buy 2 or 3 other players that that Mark would have wanted.
Well, that's what Mark McGee would be hoping, but there's a lot of times it doesn't happen. You know, and the manager doesn't see any of it. I mean, that's when you get the problem.
Yeah, that's only when you only get that problem, Ruffy, when you have an individual owner who decides to siphon the money off. But this is a Motherwell football club now that doesn't have a Les Hutchison. It has a fan group that have bought the club.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. They might decide, well, we'll just pocket that money and we'll just keep it for an emergency. and leave, what I'm saying is they then leave the manager, why, just get on with it. You know, and then all of a sudden the manager's got to come up with the goods, and that's when you find that clubs, because the investment hasn't went back into the team, that's when they start to struggle. And it's not the manager, it's generally the manager that gets it, not the board.
Sometimes the problem for me with things like this, and Greg Stewart fits into this category, you can get a fee, but then you have to hope that you're scouting your eye for a player unearths another gem, you know, and you can only actually get that, you know, golden nugget once out of every 3, 4, 5. You know, sometimes Paul Hartley's displayed a good eye for it. Mark McGee will have to have scouts to think, where did I get another Marvin Johnson at that level?
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, that's what it's like at this level in the game. So these boys have got to have good scouts, they've got to have good backroom staff and an eye for a player. And you know, like the examples you've given there, they've done that particularly well. But every player has a peak value. You know, the kid could go out there and get injured next week. So everybody comes to a point where they've got their peak value and they're in their prime and basically they've got to go.
Yeah, as far as trying to recruit players, Rangers have been linked with a Newcastle striker. This is obviously off the back of the problem with Martin Wycon, whether, and I think if my memory serves me correct, Adam Armstrong is his name, whether he decides to come up or not, Rangers will still have 4 or 5 other targets to try and compensate if Wycon's out for 4 or 5 weeks, because you can't lose a player of that class in this division and hope to still hit the mark of the goals. You need to find somebody.
No, I think even before he got injured last year and beginning of this season, I think they were actively trying to get somebody. I think they obviously, the injury the weekend there's just probably moved things on, but I think they were actively trying to get another striker. I think they were a wee bit short in that department, but again, you know, it's, as Greg was saying there, it's identifying the right player to come in that suits the system that Rangers are playing.
Yeah, and as Mark Warburton mentioned, this is something I think we sometimes are guilty of, a knee-jerk reaction and, you know, opinion on many a player. He said it'll take maybe a couple of weeks for Nico Crankjaer to get up to the speed to display the qualities that he knows he has.
Yeah, well, I think we all know he's got quality. Obviously, every time I hear somebody talking about coming back into our game, it seems to be a different style of football. It seems to be more frenetic, you know, everybody's, you know, you don't get a lot of time on the ball, and he's the kind of player that just wants time on the ball. But when, I think Hamilton are a perfect example. If you didn't know the way Hamilton play, you're not going to get time on the ball in midfield in there at all, because they're at you, they're terriers and they fight for everything. So obviously if it's his fitness, then he'll just have to try and adapt to our game.
Yeah, and if we're going to be fair to him, Craig, that's what you have to do. You have to get used to the style of the play of the team, and then you have to get used to the style of the opposition. And at times over the weekend, watching some of the games, it doesn't actually drop out of fifth gear. It's 100 miles an hour at times.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's a quality player. Once he gets to know his teammates and how they like to play, and they get to know how he plays, then I've got no doubt that he'll be a very good Rangers player. He'll find little spaces and he'll open teams up.
Yep, and of course, the Greg Stewart one just will not go away. I always feel when you get a constant link every day, it's almost you're waiting for the imminent departure of a player. Unless of course you're John Stones or Paul Pogba, and that usually just drags on for 4 months, Ruffy.
Well, it is unsettling. Craig obviously would be more qualified than me. He's been at more clubs than what I had, but from a player's point of view, when you see all this going on, it does mess up your head. You're caught in the middle of what's on offer, and I'm enjoying where I am, but there's a team wanting me, and sometimes you're not kept in the loop. You're not kept in what's happening, so it's a really unsettling time. Yeah,
give us it from a player's perspective then, because obviously Mark McGee's highlighted he feels as if it's disrupted Marvin Johnson's concentration.
I think everybody's different. I think first of all, this is a game you're in, so if it's only good that there's people speculating about you. There's folk trying to sign you. You'll have agents on the phone promising you the world, but that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have, because there's thousands of players out there that's not getting them phone calls, not getting the potential to go into bigger clubs, better money, and improve their lifestyle, really. So, listen, as I say, it's a good problem to have. You've got to be mentally strong enough to deal with it, and anything otherwise, for me, is an excuse.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to deal with if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Then Paul Hartley's left with a player who maybe wanted to go, and it fell through, and now he's got to get his head back together again.
Yeah, you're probably better placed than most to mention that, Robbie. I can remember you recalling the story of you nearly going to Man City and the disappointment afterwards as you went back and just saw wee Beattie on the training ground.
It is, when you're at a club that is going to sell somebody every year, and I always quote, I think it was Hamilton, who quite rightly used that. When you're at a club and somebody's going to go and you've been there a long time, and at the end of the season it's somebody else, not you, you've got to then say, well, when is it going to be me? Yeah. And it can mess you up.
You didn't think you were going to get big joy at the team at Man City, did you?
Brilliant. Beattie fights back. Beattie fights back.
It was actually Bert Truman.
Yeah, from the 50s. There's 3 League Cup matches tomorrow night. Obviously, there are League Cup games going on tonight as well. But tomorrow night, Ayr United, Aberdeen, Celtic, Motherwell, and St Johnstone against Hearts. It goes to extra time and then penalties. I like the finish on the night now. Are you in favour of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be can be a long season with replays and midweek games and games getting cancelled, especially when the bad weather comes in. So, get up there, prepare for the game, and go home at night knowing whether you're in the draw or not.
Yeah, you know Brendan Rodgers more than most. Would he be looking and thinking, okay, Hapoel Beersheba on the horizon, League Cup, would he sacrifice one, or do you think he's one of those guys that thinks, no, everything before me, want to try and win it all?
I think he'll want a clean sweep. I think he'll want to try and win everything he's entered in. There's no question that the Champions League priority, but I don't think he'll look at so much as resting players as having a look at the lads that are on the fringes and seeing what they can offer and trying to give them the opportunity to put themselves in the starting 11. Yeah,
what can the Celtic fans expect from him? You worked under him at Swansea.
Yep, absolute total professionalism. He's the best manager I've worked with by a mile, and I've worked with some good managers to be fair. He's very astute. His communication's fantastic. The way he runs his training sessions day to day, just everything's focused towards getting a result on a Saturday or Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it may be.
Okay, just one thing to finish. Two of the biggest transfers took place today in Manchester. John Stones joins for $47.5 million to Man City. Paul Pogba, the whole deal confirmed for $89 million. Ruffy.
That's amazing what Leicester City's done. They've given the big...
Manchester City.
No, I'm saying Leicester City have given all the teams a shake-up.
My apologies.
By winning the league last year, they've all said, this isn't going to happen again. We're going to put the money out there, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, rule number one, never jump in Ruffy when he's making a really good long point, and he's absolutely right. But he'll make another one tomorrow, and I'll probably jump in again. Thanks to Craig Beattie. Good luck at Edinburgh City from Ruffy and myself. Good night.